Wallace, you want to give us the introduction today?
I would love to give us the introduction today. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a belated episode for Warped Wednesday. Mike, do you remember what episode this is?
Would this be the 10th episode, I think? Maybe it might be the 9th. Let me double check. I think we're out of the god numbers, unfortunately. Oh, that's right, because we had the Zinch one last time. I think we're now down just to normal, boring numbers.
So, yeah, but it's always in each day. So welcome back to episode 9.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited because I think this is going to be one of the shorter but sweeter opportunities to talk about some of our favorite stuff. Some of our favorite units.
Well, also, I was just going to talk about my favorite things. I'd spend the episode talking about you. But enough of that. Let's go on to the actual episode. So everyone, today, Wallace and I will be discussing the most underrated units in the new Space Marines Codex. Well, I think news no longer a word, but just most underrated units in the Codex.
Yeah.
But first, Wallace, before we do that, before we dive into the meat and potatoes of the episode, we have a very important game to play. Can you remind our viewers and listeners what game we're going to play?
Oh, so today we'll be playing Whose Demonic Gift Is It Anyways? And what the game consists of is one of us will ask the other to identify correctly a demonic relic based exclusively off the flavor text at the top of its name.
Look, Wallace, do we want to get extra spicy on people today and maybe use a different codex? Could we do Death Guard relics, maybe?
I want to see the Chaos Space Marines, one of their demonic weapons.
Okay, well,
I think that would be very fun. I'm going to get the names wrong, but I know the general idea of each of them. So
cool. I'm excited for this. Well, let me go ahead. Let me pull up the demon relics, and I'm going to try to take out anything that directly gives away the god in this one.
Fair enough.
All right. So just a reminder to everyone, there's 5 demon weapons, 1 for each god, plus the undivided one. Wallace, see if you can guess which. This is too easy. Okay,
is it too easy? I need a win today. Today, Mike.
Well, you're going to get 8 wins at Nova, but yeah, let's get 1 win today. Okay, cool. Well, here's today's relic from the flavor text. See if you can guess which demon weapon it is.
Okay.
This warp-tainted artifact was found in a warded cavern upon a diabolical demon world. Thousands of corpses lay before it, offerings from a demonic entity to appease its hunger. One brave soul now seeks to feed the demon by more nefarious means.
Ooh.
What demon relic is that? Or I guess demon weapon.
It's the corn one?
No, sir. That is... Oh my god, don't make me say this out loud.
Say it out loud. That's part of the game.
Uila'aka, the black.
Black,
weapon. Yeah.
That was the only one I think I remembered the name of just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So fair enough. I got it wrong. That seems fine. They're all hard. I need to practice for next time by just reading the names off. I promise I won't look at the text beforehand.
That's fair. Well, give me a relic and then let's get started.
Sure.
Give me some flavor text. Give me that juicy flavor text that we all buy the codexes for.
This one's actually more of a knowledge check. I'm just going to describe what this weapon has done, and you're going to tell me which one it is. This weapon has injured the Emperor, and it's a demonic weapon. Which one is it?
Are we talking about Abaddon's right-hand man, Drachnai itself?
Yes, that's the one. That's good.
On.
You had to remember that was Drachnai. You had to remember that. You had to remember the name off the top of your head. So I think that's fine.
Cool.
That's too easy.
To wrap it up, I'm going to give you a demon warlord trait. Okay.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh, every time I read these, it hurts me to see how bad these effects are.
Some of them are okay.
I'll tell you, it's Demon Codex. It's not one of the exalted things, just one of the default warlord traits. But I'm not going to tell you which god it is. I think I'd make it too easy.
Okay. I'm excited for this one because I have not read the demon warlord traits since Nephilim, because I don't think any of them are worth my CP.
No, it's very sad. Okay, this one here. This demon knows no greater pleasure than being surrounded by foes in battle.
Oh, it's a corn one, and it's the one where if you're outnumbered within 3 inches, you get a bonus attack.
Well done, actually. I thought the use of the word pleasure in there would throw you off. But yeah, it's Glory of Battle, which
Glory of
adds to your
Battle.
Warlord's attacks characteristic. Well, there are more enemy models within 8 inches of it than there are friendly models.
Oh man,
Which,
it's so crazy to me that that is a warlord trait in the game, because
yeah,
now there's like warlord traits that are like straight up just like you get 3 extra
yeah.
attacks, and
Or
you're
just have
like,
like an attack, have a toughness, have a wound.
yeah, yeah, and you're just like, I
Yeah,
don't really need that. I don't want that. Like, I think there's a Emperor's Children one that's literally just D3 additional attacks or something
yeah,
like that, and you're like, I'm not spending a CP on that. So
yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Well, no wins for you today, Wallace. You've been demoted from a warp hammer to
What?
a warp screwdriver at best today.
I got the warlord trait, sort of.
You did actually you did, but you said
Yeah.
3 inches instead of 8 inches.
Oh,
So
is it 8 inches?
it's an 8 inch.
Wait, it
Like
actually makes you check
you have to
eight
check your
inches
tape
and
measure
count the
8 inches.
models.
Yeah. I guess you could bring back like a template, get like a custom blast template made for you, just to put it over your character and count the models within 8 inches.
So many competitive uses for that. If it also said that your opponent had to do that on their time, on their chess clock time,
That's true.
make them have
Yeah,
to count out the models every time within 8. You know.
yeah. Or maybe one that was you get an extra attack if the opponent has a number of models on the battlefield that's a multiple of 8, and then they have to count that
Nice,
during their turn. That's smart.
nice.
Make
Just
the
time
whole
them
player
out, clock them out every game.
exactly.
Yeah, that's what I
Cool.
like to see.
Well, with our good advice for playing dirty out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the main topic today, which is the most underrated chaos-based marine units. Well,
Mhm.
so I'm excited. I've got 3 names lined up that I think are gonna make all the cast players out there proud. Do you want to start us
Yeah.
off?
Yeah, I'm going to start us off with one that is a little bit of a kind of a softball here.
Okay.
This unit is very good, and a lot of people recognize that it's very good. But I would say even then it's overrated or underrated, excuse me.
Okay.
And that would be the Disco Lord, the Disco Dad,
No
our Lord
disagreement here.
Discordant on the
Yeah.
Hellstalker. I see a lot of people trimming the Disco Lord from their lists recently, and they're like, well, this is the more optimized version. I didn't really need to spend those points on that. And I just like fundamentally disagree.
Yeah.
At like 185 points, you are getting a absolute beat stick of a character. And I do understand that he takes up an HQ slot, but he takes up an HQ slot for all the best reasons. Even if this thing wasn't character protected, it is ridiculously tanky. And the fact that it is character protected means it gets to be ridiculously tanky for longer. And you can usually
Sure.
like even hide it out in the open early on in the game by just having dudes in a wall nearby within that
Yeah.
3 inch mark. And so the Disco Lord is a unit you can catapult up the table, you can
Oh, he's a
trade.
unit. He's definitely a unit.
He's a unit. He's fast. He shoots really well. You can catapult him up the table to not even trade off things, just get stuff. Like every time I send the Disco Lord in, it is a 2-for-1 experience. I am getting 2 units for the cost of my 1 Disco Lord.
Yeah.
And most of the time, those units are more expensive than them. And
So
yeah,
a little pro tip for the loving viewers at home. The trick with using character protected melee beat sticks is to just multi-charge and activate the disco first, so your buddies going next can use their pile and consolidate to give him little hugs, give him little, protect him from shooting. I find I never even really trade him. Honestly, he's not like I'm saying I'm on suicide missions. He's going in there, he's killing something, and he does it again the next turn. Oh, and he does it again the next turn. And then for turn 5, why the hell not? He'll go ahead and do it one more time just to have some fun.
and the flavor that model has
Yeah.
changes a lot based on the legion you're playing. With
Yeah.
Creations of Bile specifically, it is just nutty. It is nutty how much damage that thing does, and you can give it incredibly powerful warlord traits like
Yeah.
surgical extraction. So you're just wounded on 4+, and you can give it Flames of Spite. So it's just doing an incredible amount of damage. But you can also build these models to be more tanky. So you can, for instance, give it a
just to clarify, I just want to quickly jump in there. You wouldn't use surgical precision and flames of spite
oh,
together,
sure.
because both good warlord traits, but also because you're taking away a lot of your wound rolls with surgical precision, so you don't want something that triggers off the wound roll. Just a pro tip, I'd probably put something like the Corn demon weapon. I think is amazing with surgical precision.
Yes.
I think that's
just to correct myself, I mean,
yeah.
like when I've been playing Creations of Bile, I'm running 2 Disco Lords right now, which
Oh,
was
so
kind of the point I was
smash
getting.
characters. Yeah.
Unlike the Demon Prince, it's not restricted to one end of detachment, so you can bring multiples. And so, like with Creations of Bile, I feel like you really want to. It is easily the best model that you can bring in your list for those points. And you
Yeah.
really only need to put 1 CP in each of those traits. You don't even need to buy the demonic weapons if you don't, because like a lot of times it's just vast overkill. And I found that it's just a super effective unit. Red Crusaders, really fast. You can get crazy good angles on stuff or charge people unexpectedly. Oh man, this is a really cool build that I've only seen a few people run. You can give it a wound cap on it, so it can only take X amount of wounds in a phase, which just is nuts on a model with that many wounds. And there's even ways to heal it, which I don't know if you know about combinations, but that's nuts.
Yeah,
so
I think the fact that he's a demon engine, so he has access to 1 CP minus 1 damage, I think is just, people aren't talking about that enough. That's actually kind of busted.
It is.
Even when they do get into him, he's still a complete tank to deal with. Like again, you don't want him to get charged by Sangard, but just the minus 1 damage, especially all the defensive buffs you can give him, like he'll probably still be standing and swinging back and doing a lot of damage, almost as like a really big squad. There's such a versatile unit. And that Baleflamer, like you talked about, just 2 plus 2d3 shots at 18 inches that don't care if you've advanced. Multi-damage, that is not insignificant shooting, especially against like flyers and stuff like doom scythes and stuff. Just walking around, just kind of yank that out of the sky.
Yeah, so it's spammable. You can bring a lot into detachment. It's very cheap for its points. It's very tanky for its points. It does a lot of damage for its points. So it's like, and it's very fast. So what does this thing not do? Well, I can't think of anything other than fly. Like it doesn't have the fly
cast powers, which is
and
really big.
And it doesn't cast powers. So you obviously are either going to want to tech into summoning or bring a caster character along with them, sometimes even paying extra points for that extra detachment for them. But they do everything really well. You can build them tanky, you can build them really offensive, and they shoot pretty good, and auto hitting Bale Flamers into the flyers that are in the meta right now is also just great. So I just got to say, Disco Lords, I think, are underrated. The fact I see anyone cutting these things from their list or from their lists instead of adding them is just crazy to me. And the last thing I will say, the very last thing, is it does one more thing I didn't mention, Mike. And that is it opens up secondaries for you that you can't get otherwise, or that are more difficult to get otherwise. As an example, Disco Lords fit so well with that Rise to Glory secondary.
Oh yeah.
And I've been playing that a lot, and I've been doing a lot of practice games like against some of these meta Tyranid lists, and I'm finding that I'm generating like 3+ CP a game on top of maxing that secondary out. And it's also really good with things like Grind or even Headhunter, because it can, if you have something like a Helldrake or a Havoc squad to rip up their squeen, it can get in there and kill characters really well. So
this is one of those things where I feel like in general, kind of the logic before the codex was, for most armies, was don't take assassinate most of the time, because it's usually a trap. That was kind of the logic, like especially against armies like Thousand Sons or Sisters. Just never take assassinate. You're going to score like 0 because they just have characters in the back. Well, I'm finding playing Chaos Space Marines, for the first time in my life, I'm having to like retrain myself to take assassinate, because I'm killing everyone. And then I'll get there turn 4 and 5. I might not get any characters the first 3 turns, but then turn 4 and 5, I'm picking up like all the characters on the board basically. When the game gets messy, I have all these fast beat sticks, or Abaddon's running around late game. They literally run out of time to kill him, and he just runs around with impunity. I agree. Discos are absolutely fantastic, and just a great data sheet base. It takes buff super well, from Legion traits or any CP you want to invest. Wallace, that's a fantastic pick to start us off. And a unit that people wouldn't really think of as underrated, because it's considered very good, but can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm saying moving this thing from an A tier to just a firm S tier. It's like one of the best models in the game right now.
Top 3 in the codex. Very strong overall in the game. For my underrated unit, we're going to stay mechanical, we're going to stay demonic, but we're going to go up in the sky. Go ahead, I'm going to throw a Helldrake out there. How do you feel about that?
That's spicy, and I love it.
Okay, because Helldrakes, I found that that +2, that Bale Flamer is really no joke. Because if you look at bad matchups for Chaos Space Marines, it's things like Sisters, for example. Being able to just fly around 50 inches or whatever and just pick up a unit of Repentia behind a wall. Because our indirect is kind of non-existent. There's like weird forgeable things you can take that just are just garbage. Um, the Land Raider Achilles is cute. I mean, okay, we're kind of going outside the scope of a reasonable competitive lists. Most Chaos Space Marine lists are going to struggle with things like Repentia or little tradey pieces behind walls that can step out and do a lot of damage to you. That Helldrake flying without 2 damage, strength 6 flamer is really good. I also feel like we're starting to see aircraft actually back in the meta. I'm seeing Necrons run Doom Scythes. I'm seeing Tyranids run their little dragon looking thingy.
Your harpy, yeah.
Yeah. Not the big dragon, the little harpy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like just having that kind of tech is one of those units where in matchups where it's bad, it's still decent. In matchups where it's good, it's really nice to have.
And I've also seen a lot of Tau start bringing those new Tau flyers, or not new Tau flyers, but those ones with like the 50-inch movement.
Yeah. The Sun Shark bombers, I think, or maybe the Sun Ray, something. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're very shooty, but they're also very flimsy.
Yeah.
And if you have Helldrakes and you go first against Tau, you're able to trade those off really well, which is great. And if you go second against Tau, well, maybe you lose your Helldrakes, but it's not like you lose them for free. They still have to push stuff up across the table to do that. So
sure. And the counterpoint, people say, well, Helldrake melee doesn't really work because they can just screen the flyers. Like, I agree, for one turn they probably can. But like, what kind of resources that are they investing in screening their flyers from being charged all game? Because normally the flyers are like generally the thing you used to charge or screen charges. Because against Chaos Space Marine, still have a lot of ground bound melee. The trick to that is you put flyers in front, like block off objectives, block off charges to other stuff, and you're just like, cool, I'm gonna send my Helldrake in and just absolutely eat this thing. Also, I gotta say, the best part of running Helldrakes is once you have it painted, it requires so much investment and pain to get all that trim and all those angles. You want to find a reason to run it. So I may be a tiny bit, sunk cost fallacy here, but I think they're legitimately very good. And I think in a lot of legions, I think Iron Warriors especially, I think they're fantastic.
yeah.
Then our rerolls to wound is huge. Ignoring cover on the Bale Flamer makes it a real weapon. You really can't go wrong. I can honestly see 2 in the Iron Warriors list doing very well.
And people also forget a lot of times you can drop them out of flight. And if you do, they still have a 20-inch movement.
Yeah.
Which is pretty solid. And sometimes, yeah, they're going to trade unfavorably in points to rip up somebody's screens. But that's fine too, because what that's going to open up is your really point efficient melee units to get in there and do damage.
Yeah. So because if they're shooting the Helldrake, then what aren't they shooting? I also think they're really cool in Alpha Legion, where you can redeploy 3 units, including into reserves. And just a reminder that for people that don't use aircraft often, when they come out of reserves, they don't follow the rules of coming on the board edge. They can aircraft specifically get an exemption to come in anywhere on the board 9 inches away. They can snipe a character with a flamer, or do all sorts of fun stuff like that. So yeah, you've got some good options with your Helldrakes.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about them.
We've got 2 kind of mechanical demon engine type things. Give me your third choice for an underrated unit.
I'm going to give you a choice that actually loves Helldrakes, but is nothing like them, and that is going to be the Berserkers. I think Berserkers are one of the better units in the Chaos Space Marine Codex as a whole, actually.
Sure.
I think a lot of people were initially super critical of them because they didn't actually get a like pure damage upgrade, and they don't have as many tricks as they did in the old Codex. But it's really hard to understate the value of just having an extra wound. Yes, I understand there's a lot of damage to weapons in the game, but there's also a lot of weapons that aren't damage to as well.
Yeah.
And having a more resilient Berserker makes a lot of situations happen that you almost never saw before. For instance, if I get one of these, even just a 5-man bomb into cover, they are going to have that 2-up save with Armor of Contempt, and they're going to survive a lot of shooting, especially damage 1 shooting. And your opponent doesn't actually want to commit too much damage 2 shooting into your Marines, especially if you have other threats, which is why I think they really like things like Helldrakes that also get in your opponent's face. On that note, if you have something that's threatening to your opponent that forces them to have to come outside of their safety zone to shoot you, like those Helldrakes, it's essentially making the charges easier for your Berserkers. So I see them as just a really strong unit. And I think World Eaters right now as a faction are somewhat underrated. I think they're pretty powerful. And I think if you get a berserker unit into melee, it's still gonna feel amazing.
Yeah. Well,
And
people say they kind of got a damage downgrade, but they were AP1 before. Now they just walk around flat rocking the AP3 because of course you're buying the 5-point icon on them.
right,
And that AP3 is huge with their volume of attacks. AP4 if you're an
World
ultimate
Eaters.
legend and running World Eaters,
Yeah.
or I think some other legions like Black Legion, I think can add some extra a pip of AP.
Yeah.
Just that high AP with combined with that volume, and they can still, people forget this, they don't get Legion traits. They still have
Right.
the Legion keywords. They can do things like, for example, the Black Legion list, get full hit and wound rerolls from Abaddon, which is just absolutely nutty on that volume of high AP. Still, or they're still core. So, for example, what you can do is you can make them creations of bile, and you can advance and charge them with a stratagem, which just feels really, really good. So yeah, you've got a lot of options.
And yeah, they can fit in different lists and do different things. But every time that I've tampered with bringing them, I felt like they were just a really good melee threat that goes along with my slow like moving chosen and stuff that I'm kind of like keeping in cover.
Yeah.
I'm throwing out the Zerkers, they're killing something, and then they're absorbing a good amount of shooting before they die, which draws shooting from other things. So I think they're nice. They're a really good distraction unit as well.
Yeah. Well, and actually one last place I think they shine really well is Iron Warriors.
True.
Because they don't really care about the Legion trait. I mean, losing no reroll wounds is a bit annoying, but they don't care about the cover part. And they can get -1 damage for 1 CP.
Yep.
Which they're already super killing. So anything that adds to their durability for cheap is just a really great defensive buff. Hard to go wrong there.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples I think where they are just a really naturally good fit for it.
Yeah.
And especially again,
115 I think for 3 or for an MSU with icon or something, maybe 110, maybe 120, but right in that range.
Right.
Really,
and
really good value.
Yeah, you're going to get them into the mid table, and then you're going to start launching them out at stuff to trade. And I like them a lot. So that was my underrated pick.
Still core, still get the Cloak of Conquest, for example. Black Legion, make them OPSEC. A lot of fun things you can do. And also Black Legion's very iconic because there's the Hounds of Abaddon in the lore. It's kind of I love when the lore and competitive play get to work together.
Me too.
Okay, cool. For my next underrated unit, I'm going to kind of follow in your footsteps and go with another cult marine. I think Rubric Marines are just kind of nutty. And I think people like know they're good, but aren't really running them anyway, which confuses me a bit. Like I keep saying, oh, they're like so good, but like no one actually is taking them. And every time I take them, I'm like, wow, that's just a really good unit. Again, it's all about teching for different matchups. I think they're amazing into sisters, for example.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I think there was actually a game we played. It wasn't really a game against each other. It was more Wallace and I were testing a Black Legion list with a big rubric brick versus Sisters of Battle. And we found, because remember, Tzeentch units do have access to an Auspex scan. So suddenly, like if you have a unit of rubrics on your front lines, they have a unit of Seraphim that want to come down, do actions or shoot you, or Zephyrim, or the sword ladies, for example. Just having that access to just this amazingly deadly Auspex scan in Overwatch, Auspex scan is really effective because there's Tzeentch. And that caster with full access to the Dark Hereticus discipline, often lists maybe don't have a Demon Prince, and you really don't want to pay for a sorcerer if you can help it. Just having this elite slot unit that's durable, killy, and also gives you access to things like Warp Time that you can't normally take on a Balefire Tome Legionary squad. I think it's really, really effective.
And I want to mention this because I thought this was really cool. Just if anyone wants to try this out, the list that Mike had 2 of these flamer bombs of rubrics. He had 2 10-man units with the flamer weapons, and those do a lot of damage. But like, how do I get the delivery? Well, he was playing Black Legion, and he had the relic, which is called the Veil Breaker, and it allows you to essentially teleport them. So he never actually used it on them, but the threat that he could made me, and I was playing the meta tournament winning sisters lists, it made me have to play the game really, really not how I wanted to play it, because I had to play like those could come in at any time to do damage to me. And on top of that, you have a relic that's passing around OBSEC. So they're OBSEC, and you could teleport one of them. And the other thing that I thought was crazy is we were playing Hammer and Anvil, and you had them kind of towards the front of your line, and these other like cultists and stuff screening out, so I couldn't deep strike anywhere in your backfield. Because you had one on the right and one on the left flank, you had these 2 no-go zones where I literally couldn't deep strike anywhere on the table near you. I couldn't. So all of my Xerafen squads or like stuff that I wanted to put in Deep Strike and drop in to get there didn't have any spot to put them. So I just had to put them back in behind Obscurion in my deployment and then wait until later to get them in. And that ended up being a pretty close game. But the number one unit for the Chaos Space Marines was them, because also you can't just charge them. You have to either stop them from being able to overwatch you.
Them. Yeah.
Or I threw away one of my units in order to just like soak the overwatch so I could actually get in there and pick up one of those squads. And yeah, man, I gotta say those rubrics with those flamer bombs, they just completely warp the game.
Well, again, going back to Black Legion, again, the fact that they are that core, you can select them for Abaddon's buffs and they can have the full wound rerolls. That just feels really good when you're shooting 20 plus 10d6 flamers. That's like 50 to 60 flamers that auto hit and then a full wound rerolls at AP2. And that does some damage.
It does.
I don't want to do the math right now off the top of my head, but I know, especially if you can afford vets in a key situation, that'll do a big chunk into literally anything in the game. So yeah, great unit.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things where I know the elite slot's a bit crowded, but the elite slot's also expensive. So I'm not really running out of slots. So often maybe next time you're running possessed, maybe try a 5-man rubric squad. You save some points. Warp flamer squad, and it gives you a completely different threat.
Plus, all is dust, baby.
All is dust, great roll, especially on Iron Warriors. Again, -1 damage that stacks with that in melee too. So it's only even 2 damage melee. You're basically the Terminators walking around.
So many different combos with it, and you don't even have to go into the I'm just going to deep strike them and kill you thing. Just like even just having the threat that you could changes the game in such a crazy way that I think it's super powerful. And some people can bring Dread Claws, so it doesn't necessarily have to be Black Legion. And
they can also just give themselves a 4-up invuln, which is fantastic. All right, well, I feel we could talk about rubrics all day because I think we both agree they're super underrated. I think we've done 4 underrated units so far. Let's give all the fans at home a 5th one to experiment with.
Sure. Yeah. So this one I wanted to mention, and I wanted to mention in a very specific context, which is Plague Marines. I think that Chaos Space Marines do Plague Marines better than Death Guard. So Death Guard.
I don't disagree, actually.
Yeah. And Death Guard, their troops, which is OBSEC, and putting OBSEC on a unit that tanky is great. But in Chaos Space Marines, there's a lot of ways to give Plague Marines OBSEC. As an example, if you are Iron Warriors, you can take the Warlord trait, I believe, called the Bastion, and you can give them OBSEC.
That's super good.
So it shores up that one weakness. So you might say, well, they don't have that -1 toughness aura, but what they get access to is strats. So if you're bringing a 10-man Plague Marine squad, there's a lot of strats you can layer on there that are really crazy. Again, Iron Warriors example, I believe you can stack the -1 damages. Am I correct?
Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing. I've looked into that. I actually have not even run that because I think it might be too good. I don't want to get used to that feeling before the FAQ and have it taken away potentially. But I think that's just flat 3 damage, like Helverin's coming in, and you're like, cool, I'm just gonna go ahead and just take 1 damage at a time. And they just the light leaves their eyes. They no longer want to exist on this planet anymore.
Right. And you can also amp up their damage quite a bit with a lot of strats as well, which is great because they get all their options free. So you can bring a threatening Plague Marine melee unit. You can make it really hard to kill. And I really like one of them as a replacement to the Terminator bricks I have been playing. So my specific context is I think Plague Marines with most, but not all legions are actually better than those Terminator bricks we've been seeing. Just because, one, the points are quite a bit cheaper. You'll be surprised at how much more stuff you can fit in your list if you're bringing the Plague Marines instead of the Terminators. And two, there's so many interactions that you can put on those specific Plague Marines to make them even as threatening or more threatening than the Terminators for not quite half their points, but almost half their points. So
take those special weapons being free in CSM too is just a fantastic feeling. And again, just a reminder, like we said about the other Cult Marines, they don't get the Legion trait, but they still have core for any kind of synergies and keywords. A great one I can think of is again in Black Legion with the full hit and wound rerolls, just incredible. I also think again in Creations of Bile, you can advance the charge of them. I think that's just a really, really good value because it's really hard to get multi-damage melee in Chaos Space Marine. Now that especially like Chosen can't take hammers anymore and stuff. It's really basically just Terminators, Possessed, really the big ones. But if you want like that high damage, like 3 damage or like D6 damage. I think Plague Marines really, again, the weapons for free makes them fantastic. And again, they do have access to transhuman with that miracle keyword. Oftentimes they be -1 to wound anyway, just from the mark. But again, 1 CP transhuman against a lot of that like strength 6 to strength 9 stuff. It's just a really, really good feeling. 5-man, even for a big squad, it's only 2 CP. A lot of fun stuff you can do there.
Yeah. So I guess just as honorary mention real quick, we'll each throw out a no explanation pick for one that we want to run in our lists in the future.
Well, it's tough. I'm kind of running out of underrated units. There's just a lot of just widely considered very good units here. But let's go ahead. Let's see if we can just squeak out one more underrated unit before we go. So I'll keep it up in mind. What are you saying, Wallace?
Land Raider.
You know what?
I said I don't have to explain myself, but Land Raider. I
Okay.
think Land Raider is good. I think that there are ways to make Land Raider, well, I wouldn't say good. It is very playable, and there's ways to make
I don't
it
disagree.
good. There's ways to make it good. And I really like them. I was thinking about running a list with like 2 of them even. And just being very heavy mechanized board control.
So. I don't disagree. I think they're quite spicy in Emperor's Children. I don't think they're optimized, but I think again you can easily run Land Raider in your list or 2 and go 3-2, maybe even 4-1 edge ET. They're far from just the dead weight they used to be. Okay, no, I'm into that. I would say for mine, and this is kind of, we're still waiting for Forge World units to become playable, get the trader card as keyword, but it's obviously going to happen. And I think Decimators, especially with the melee versions, that come with the inbuilt flamer, that's going to become 2 + D6. I did double check. It has the word flame in its name, so we get Let the Galaxy Burn. And they're pretty cheap. It's 160 with 2 melee weapons, or like 1 melee arm and then 1 gun, as long as it's not the mortal wound gun. So I think maybe give them the gun that's like the 6 shots, just assault gun. Just some good anti-chaff firepower. It's like an autocannon basically. And then just a really good flat damage, strength 14, 3 damage melee, with a D6 + 2 flamer, or maybe even 2 melee arms.
Yeah. I mean, it's much better than just like a Hellbrute. I like it with 1 gun and the hand. Or I actually still think the Soul Fire or Soul Flame, Soul Terror,
the Soul Burners,
Soul Burner petards are very good still. So there's still a lot of Armor of Contempt crap running around that you want to mortal wound to death. And that's an example of one that does it very well. So I'm excited. I hope that keyword change happens. Get me some Decimators.
Yeah, it's obviously going to happen. I just don't understand why they're dragging their feet on this, but it'll happen soon. As the Black IPs once famously said, let's get petarded in here. So I'm really excited to run my Decimators. I've got 3 painted up. I think they're super cool models. I think getting access to 1 CP -1 damage was like the little bit of spice they needed. You're always going to at least 1 melee arm, because I think that flamer is so good. Because the melee arm basically gives you a gun plus a melee weapon. And you have great choices, or maybe 2 soul burners. I don't think the C-beam cannons are like the worst thing in the world, but I don't think they're amazing either. But yeah, lots of fun options there and a lot of great synergies. I think in Word Bearers, especially with that full hit rerolls on the charge.
Oh yeah, baby.
Coming in 2 melee weapons, you just punch them. You have so many attacks. You explode in 6s. You already got 2 flamers at D6 + 2 shots each that are multi-damage for some reason. Super excited.
Iron Warriors for ignores cover. Get weird.
2 damage melee, 2 damage flamers that ignore cover. Cool. I don't care about the AP1 because we're ignoring cover. Just picking up intercessors left and right, picking up terminators and melee. You'll love to see it.
It seems good. So I hope everybody enjoyed today's episode. I hope you came away with a couple of takeaways. And if you agree with us, give us a like. If you disagree with us, give us a like, and also comment why you disagree with us in the comment section down below.
But if you do disagree with us, you're probably wrong. We'll be nice. We'll be friendly. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I don't think there's a single one of these units that it's hard to not get excited for. I think they're all amazing, and hopefully this gives you some ideas for your own list, like units you want to put on the table or units maybe you haven't taken off your shelf. Go ahead and give them a try. I think the book has amazing internal balance. Like literally, almost every single unit I'm finding a spot for. The only limiting factor is honestly time. I want to try them all. If I could take a week off work and just play games 24/7 for a week, I mean, there's just too much fun stuff. It's all strong. It's all fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what the community is able to build and what we're able to do with the vast cosmos of our future.
Yeah. So just give us back our jump back our jump pack load. Match play, you cowards. But
Okay,
yeah,
we'll end it on that one.
on that note, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for another Warped Wednesday. We had an amazing interview with Russell Tasson last week that I recommend you check out. In the meantime, we will get back to the warp, go back to slaughter some cultists to empower the dark gods, and we'll see all of you beautiful people next week. See you, Wallace.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.